Shalom, shalom. First off, I want to start off by giving all the glory, infinite praise, and honor unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutation to the hopeful elect that is out there pushing this truth in all sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, giving diligence to make your calling of election sure. Shalom. This is your brother Hashah from the Great Millstone Savannah Camp, coming back in the spirit with another lesson. Lord willing, I pray and hope that it's edifying and exhorting. All right. And I wanted to, seeing as we just finished up Hanukkah or the Feast of Dedication, all right, I wanted to bring out some important history. All right. I know um, the elder, um, the elder in Dallas, uh, brought out really the meat of the scriptures, the importance of that 200-year history that is missing from the KJV that is, commonly read today without the Apocrypha. All right. The Elder Yashawamba, Salakia. All right. And you can, go to his channel, like and subscribe, and actually watch his video. All right, because this video was inspired by his video. All right. And I want to, try my best to kind of piece together the history, all right, of what is missing from the scriptures. All right. It says this very verse right here is important, it's pivotal um to understanding the entirety of the scriptures because Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus Christ, all right, showed Nebuchadnezzar, who is king of the, I believe, the Assyrian empire. Um, he showed him, he was a king of the Babylonian empire. So like he showed them the image of all the earth ages. Okay, and pretty much this is like a roadmap. If you ever been in a mall, um, they always have like a map, okay, to show you how to get around to different stores. All right, because if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going. All right, so there's always like a star or something on that map that says you are here. Okay, and when it comes to the prophecy, when it comes to the scriptures, you must know where you are. All right, and matter of fact, I wanted to get let me just open up with this precept. All right, Second Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1, he said, and he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then thou shalt well, then thou shalt understand that this is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Okay. So in measuring the times, all right, you are supposed to be looking for and you know uh, measuring up the prophecies, the things, the events that are taking place in the earth, all right, to the actual prophecies of the scriptures, all right, and that will let you know where you are. All right, it says back in Second Ezra, not in Second Ezra, Daniel, the second chapter, and the 31st verse, it says, "Thou, O King, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible." All right. It says, "This image's head was of gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thigh of brass, and his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron, part of clay. Thou sawest till that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were iron and clay and break them to pieces. All right. And so when you go into this when you go into this dream, right, when you go into this vision, okay, it gives you the earth ages. Okay. The head of gold, that was Babylon, right? That was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, right? He was the head, all right, the head of that statue. Okay. He was the king of that earth's age. All right. Now there was kingdoms before him, right? You had the Egyptian Empire, right? Um, so there was other things before him, but they weren't in this statue. Okay. Um, it says the head of gold, Babylon, Babylonia, right? The ancient Babylon, right? The chest and the arms of silver. This is the Medo Persian Empire, okay? Which I believe the Persians kind of took over that empire under Xerxes, Artaxerxes, okay? When you go into the history, right? It's a lot of history, in these time periods, okay? And these are periods and times where the Israelites were in captivity in some way, shape, or form. Okay. It says the belly and the thighs of brass, of bronze, right, which represents the Greeks, right, and then the legs of iron represent Rome, right. And when you go into the scriptures, right, and um and you're reading the Bible, right, the Bible will give you the rundown from Babylon to Medo Persia, all right. But then, right, through the Protestant Church, the Bible Defamation League, right, um, they took out the belly and the thighs of the kingdom, right, which is Greece, okay. And in doing that, you go from um, a man that has a chest and goes straight to the legs of iron, right? Goes straight into the Roman Empire when you go from Malachi to Salakia to Matthew, okay, which is the Roman Empire. So and there's a lot of history that takes place in that Greek Empire to where you will not understand the New Testament, okay? And you have, a certain people in the land that are there right now, and they keep Hanukkah, right? They're keeping the feast of dedication, and they don't believe in Yahushua, okay? They don't believe anything after um that Greek Empire, right? Which they don't even talk about the Greek Empire in their doctrine, okay? Um, but I wanted to you know, just bring out that history, okay? And then when you go down to this feet and the feet of iron and clay, right? It says the future powers, right? And the future powers is just the Roman Empire reincarnated, right? Um, how do we know that? How do we know that the Roman Empire came back into power, right? It says that the deadly wound, right? Just get that. Um, Revelation 13 and 2, it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like as a bear, and his mouth as a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, when you go into that image, right? Get that. Um, translation. Okay. So you basically have these different these different beasts that also represent the earth ages, right? Um you have the leopard. The leopard represents what? The Greek Empire, right? Then you have the lion. Revelation 13 and 1, and I stood upon the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea having 7 heads and 10 horns. And this represents NATO and the EU, all right, the European Economic Community, right, which was established after the fall of the Byzantine Empire. Okay, it says, and upon his Salakia, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. All right, and this represents the beginning of the end for Esau Edom. All right, um, and basically it's showing you the Western Empire. All right, and how this will be the end of the this world age. Verse 22 it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, right? Going into the Grecians, right? It says, and his feet were like were as the feet of a bear, which represents the Russian, right? When you go into the feet of the empire represent the end. All right. It says in his mouth as a lion, in his mouth is as the mouth of a lion, going into the Romans, okay, going into how they had power, man. Also, a lot of legislation, philosophies, all that came out of the Roman Empire. All right. These different, you know, world systems, the banks, the Catholic Church, all that came out of the lion, the mouth. It says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And this is the same dragon from the first verse, okay, with 7 heads and 10 horns. So this is going into the Western Empire, right? When you go into that leopard, all right. This is Daniel the seventh chapter. It says, um, verse 6, and after this I beheld, lo, like another, I beheld, Salakia, let me start over. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to them. And this goes into the Maccabees story, right? The Maccabean story, where it talks about Alexander, right? Let's get it. First Maccabees. Let's start at 6. Right? It talks about, matter of fact, we'll just read this whole history. Maccabees 1 and 1. First Maccabees 1, it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Mas the of Mac of Macedo, of Macedonia, Salakia, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persian and Medes, that reigned in the stead the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Right? And this represents the beginning of Esau Edom's rulership. And this is why the history is very important, because if you don't know about this empire, right, then the New Testament will not make sense. It says, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and in so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth. And when you go into Alexander, he was groomed. All right, he was mentored and tutored by scholars. All right, Socrates and I forget the other one. I forget I forget the name of the other one. All right, but he was brought up by Hebrew scholars. All right, and they actually showed him where he would be in the scriptures. All right, that horn. It says, and after these he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So this is that dominion that was given unto those four heads and those four wings in Daniel the sixth chapter, Daniel the seventh chapter, the sixth verse. Okay, which the generals are Lasameus, Cassander, uh, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. All right, all those empires had basically east, west, north, and south. He divided. Okay, um, going back in Revelation the 13th chapter, it says, "And I saw as one of the heads was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto this beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Right? Going into the empire that we're currently in now, all right, which is the Roman Empire uh reincarnated, the wound that was healed, right, which was the fall of the Roman Empire. Um, it came back, it was resurrected through the Renaissance era, right? When you go into the what Renaissance means, right? It goes into a rebirth, right? Let me get that in the online etymology. Renaissance, right? It says a great period of revival of classical art and learning in Europe that began in the 14th century. All right. It says to be born again, to rise again, to reappear, to be renewed again. All right, so this is the Renaissance period, which was the period in 14th century, right? This is where Esau Edom's power began. All right, and it's important. It's an important part of history, man. All right, so I'm gonna stop right here. Lord willing, that was edifying. Hopefully, I'll do a part two to this lesson. All right, and kind of piece things uh more together. All right. So with that, I'm gonna say call Allah Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai by Shem Dash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that do rule and teach well. Peace, love, and salutation to the hopeful elect that is out there pushing this truth in all sincerity. Shalom and Abba.